Hi, everybody. Gus from Askewed Reviews. And today it's another episode of Cinema Society Saturday. Now, if you don't know what that is, this is where a group of us who absolutely love horror movies have all come together. We are then randomly each week given a different theme. We then partner up, give our partners a movie that fits within the theme, and then we review that film for you. So the theme for this week was Full Moon Features. If you haven't heard of that before, that's a shame. This is a great production company that really was at its height during the 80s and 90s, but is still doing films to this day. In fact, a lot of my taste in horror movies probably comes from the fact that I grew up on watching full moon features. So this week I was lucky enough to have two partners. Let me tell you who the first one is. The first one was actually my same partner from last week, Peachy, which, once again, if you're not following her, definitely go and do so. She has some really fun and funny content. Now, the movie that Peachy gave me to review was Head of the Family. This is a 1996 film directed and co-written by Charles Band. This was not my first time watching this film, but it definitely has been quite a while. You can probably instantly tell if you're going to be a fan of full moon features if you see this cover and you go, well, now I have to watch that. So let me tell you a little bit about the plot for this one. We have our main character of Lance. Now, Lance runs a stop and shop type place, but he is very much in love with this woman named Loretta. Loretta, however, is married to a man named Howard, who is the leader of a biker gang and is pretty much trying to extort the whole town. Now, Lance and Loretta are having an affair behind Howard's back, and they finally make the realization that eventually Howard is going to figure out what's going on, so they need to take him out of the equation. While trying to figure out a way to get rid of Howard, Lance ends up stumbling upon an interesting situation involving one of the local families called the Stackpools. The Stackpools are an odd bunch, which Lance at least kind of knows three of them: two brothers, Otis and Wheeler, and a sister named Ernestina. So Lance witnesses this family kidnapping people, and he begins to realize that maybe he can blackmail them into getting rid of his problem. He sets up a meeting with them and finds out that the literal head of the family is a man named Myron, who is this guy right up here, and he is the smart one of the group. Now, he's obviously not happy about being put into this situation, but is willing to make a deal with Lance for the time being. The Stackpools do end up helping Lance out. The problem here is Lance doesn't stop there and is now trying to extort a lot of money out of this family. And of course, the Stackpools aren't going to just leave it at that. So that's where I'll leave it. This is a movie you should definitely check out if you want to find out more about what happens in that story. This is definitely a silly and ridiculous horror movie that doesn't have the greatest story, but it is still very fun to watch. I will also say, if you're a big fan of nudity in your horror movies, you get plenty in this film. So for me on my scale, I'm giving Head of the Family a 3 out of 5. I do recommend checking this one out, and if you'd like to, it's currently streaming for free on Tubi. Once more, I am going to mention, go and follow Peachy if you're not doing so. Let's try to get her up to 3,000 as soon as we can. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Cinema Society Saturday. And if you'd like to see what everyone else in the group did for their reviews, all you have to do is look up the hashtag Cinema Society Saturday, and one more big shout out to Full Moon Features. Thank you so much for making these fun, ridiculous, and horrifying movies. It was also a real pleasure to actually run into you folks and hang out for a bit at this past weekend's Flashback Weekend horror convention. And if any of you folks out there have never seen a full moon feature, please go and watch one today.